Hello, my name is Brennan, and today I will be doing a pacifist run of the Specter Knight campaign in the video game Shovel Knight. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. I decided to buy the Will Skull to make the levels a little easier on me. And luckily, I didn't face any hard parts in the trial for the Will Skull. And the thing that's going to make this challenge separate from my last video the most is that I can choose any level whenever I want. So I've decided to go into the Primal Keep first because that's what I would usually do on a normal run. And this jump here is impossible. I tried for a while to get past it, but I couldn't. And from previous experiences from this game, I knew that there was a relic that I could use to get past it, called the Hover Plume. So I would go through all of the levels that I could complete first to try and see if I could get it. I decided to go to the Lich Yard next because it seemed like a promising option because it did not have any mini bosses that I would have to kill. And thankfully, I was correct that this level was very easy. I even got a Darkness Wisp to help with the later levels that I would come upon. So after a stunning kill on the Phantom Striker, we can see that the new relic is not the Hover Plume. I decided to buy the Rail Mail to help me move faster, and decided to go to the Flying Machine next, and it was a mistake. So I decided to go to the Lost City next, and there was another impossible jump there. There was no way that I could get over this massive lava gap, so I had to go back to the tower. And then I tried the Stranded Ship, which did have a mini boss that I had to kill, but that would have been inescapable even with the Hover Plume. And thankfully, nothing in the rest of the level posed much of an issue for me. So after a slick kill on the Polar Knight, but we can't see the relic we got yet because we have to go into a dream sequence. And thankfully, nothing in it was that hard. I decided to go into the Clockwork Tower next, and thankfully it didn't pose much of an issue at all. After defeating the Tinker Knight twice, the relics that we got are not the ones that we need. And I decided to go to the Explodatorium next, but someone breaks through our window. So after finishing off that mini boss, we can actually go to the Explodatorium now. And in it, there is yet another mini boss room, so we are going to have to kill someone. So after a booming kill on the Plague Knight, we can see that the relic we got is not what we want at all. So next, I decided to go to the Iron Whale, where the Treasure Knight is. And this level is a doozy. These are worms. Sadly, we can't damage boost through them like all other enemies in this level. And I had the idea that I could go over this worm, and with just a tiny bit of trying, I managed to make it work. Now that I was over the first one, I just had to figure out how to get over the second one. And I don't think that there is any way to get past this, even with the hidden enemies in the wall. So I respawned back at the checkpoint to try and find a way to get past it. And I found out that if you manage to get over the worm and immediately hold a right, you can easily get over it. But our troubles don't end here because there is another big worm in our way. I even tried to use the Will Skull to stall in the air to get past it. I ended up back at the curio shop to try and find any relic that would help me get some extra reach, and I settled on the Dread Talon. But to actually get the Dread Talon, first I need to pass through an obstacle course, like I did with the Will Skull earlier in this run. Now since this isn't actually one of the levels, killing anything in here I'm not going to count as a kill. And the reason why I got the Will Skull is because of this. If I use it, I get a lot more distance than if I don't use it, as shown right here. And right here, we can see the Dread Talon in action. Oh yeah. But it still won't help with this part. So I did have to kill both of the worms here and to get past. And the thing that happened to that stingray, I'm not sure, but I did not kill it, so I'm not going to count it. But I am going to count those worms. Now this next room is terrible. I managed to skip killing one of the worms, but every single other worm in this room I had to kill. So that's gonna take a big toll on our death count. Now this room might seem like I have to kill another worm, but I can just skip right past it. But to add salt to the wound, there is a mini boss in this area that we do have to kill and add even more to our death count. And after a sad kill on the treasure night, we can move on to another dream sequence. But in this one, there's just a mini boss that we have to defeat, so nothing much there. And thankfully, for all of our troubles, we can finally get the hover plume. So that means all of those other levels are now possible. And this is what the hover plume does. It lets us float in the air for about a second, and is very helpful in anywhere where we have to cross a very big gap, because it gives us infinite height as long as we have the darkness. And after I got it, I decided to upgrade it so it gave invincibility whenever I was using it. So next, I decided to go to the Pridemore Keep and finally get over that really hard jump that we couldn't before. And there was also another hard part right here, and I managed to get over it without the hover plume. So after a swift kill on the King Knight, we can move on to the Lost City. I'm just going to ignore that. So after that, we can now actually go to the Lost City and finally get over that impossible jump that we couldn't before. So after flaming kill on the Mole Knight, and we go into another dream sequence. But thankfully, this one has just some dumb story elements in it, so we don't have to worry about it at all. After that, I bought another curio that I never use. And next, I decided to head into the flying machine. And this level, even with the hover plume, is an absolute nightmare. So let's take a look at what we've got. We've got this room, and then that room, and this room to finally top it off. And this is the run that eventually worked. I used 2 of my hover plumes to get over this area, and my darkness is the limiting factor here. I ended up doing a damage boost right there to save a hover plume so I could use it later on. I had to use a hover plume right here to get over this without killing anything, and I eventually figured out that if I climb up this wall right here and get hit, I don't have to use a hover plume right there. So I can use my last hover plume to just get over this last area and onto the rest of the level. And I was really happy for doing that. For about 5 seconds before I realized that there was a mini boss later in the level. So that's going to add to our death count. And right here, I was out of magic, so I didn't know what to do. But eventually I realized that I could just die and get all my magic back. So I easily got past that level. And right here, I had to use my magic supply very wisely because I only had 2 hover plumes left and I had to use them both precisely to get over these 2 enemies. It eventually worked though. And after a dashing kill on the Propeller Knight, move on to the end of the game. So I lost my recording right here, so I'm going to play the last 2 levels over again just to give you all the best parts of it. And oh boy, it was a doozy. First I had to hover plume over these 2 fish, and then I had to do it over all of these propeller rats with only 1 left. And I tried to get past this area for an hour, and eventually it worked. I had to use a hover plume to get past it. And I had to use another one here combined with some wall climbs and hits to get past it. So after killing the Black Knight again, we can move on to the final boss. And to anyone that's playing this game just casually, make sure to get the barrier lantern right here. It skips the entirety of this tough room. I sped it up for you so you can see. It's very overpowered. And after one final kill on the Enchantress and her final boss minion, we can move on to some story elements, and some more story, and some more cool story, until finally we're at the end. And our total death count is, ooh, sheesh, that's a lot. If any of you guys want to try this out, I highly recommend it. I had a lot of fun doing it, and I think it would be good for you. Anyway, my name is Brandon, and this is the Planet Channel, signing off for today.